actress Ava Gardner in the early 50s. Behind the image of one of Hollywood's most femme fatales was a simple farm girl who maintained a straightforward character her whole life and hated all the tinsel that surrounded the dream factory. This is George Clooney in a school photograph from the 70s. In this teenager with a typical hairstyle for the era and a colorful shirt, it's hard to recognize the future Hollywood star, the most desirable man on the planet, and an Oscar winner. Elizabeth Taylor on the set of Cleopatra in 1962, with her then-husband Eddie Fisher and her future one, Richard Burton. It was on this set that the most scandalous romance in Hollywood history ignited, destroying 2 marriages and capturing the world's attention. This isn't a high school graduate, but an already established actress, Grace Kelly, in the cabin of an American Airlines plane in the early 50s. Her impeccable style and aristocratic appearance made her an icon of elegance who looked like a real princess, even in a simple dress. A cigar factory in Cuba in the early 20th century, where a special reader, a lector, was hired to entertain the workers. While hundreds of hands rolled cigars, he read them newspapers and classic novels like The Count of Monte Cristo aloud, turning monotonous labor into an educational process. A train station in Chicago, July 1941, just 5 months before the attack on Pearl Harbor. These men in straw hats waiting for their train don't yet know that their peaceful life is about to end, and the entire country will enter the war. Coney Island, July 4th, 1946, the first Independence Day after the end of World War II. 1 million people poured onto the beach to celebrate peace and a return to simple life, turning the coast into a giant human anthill. Audrey Hepburn relaxes on a ping-pong table at her villa in the south of France. Even far from the Hollywood hustle, she remained a style icon, proving that elegance is not about clothes, but a state of mind. October 24th, 1901, 63-year-old teacher Annie Edson Taylor, next to the barrel in which she became the first person in the world to go over Niagara Falls. She undertook this deadly stunt not for fame, but to secure her old age, but ultimately died in poverty. A typical Dairy Queen restaurant in the 70s. These establishments, with their recognizable design and soft-serve ice cream, became an integral part of the landscape of one-story America and a symbol of a simple, carefree life. Venice, 1900. This colorized photograph conveys the atmosphere of the city on the water before the era of mass tourism. Gondolas glide peacefully along the Grand Canal, and the streets are not yet crowded with people with cameras. The airport on Catalina Island in California, 1931. In an era when seaplanes were commonplace, this picturesque terminal on the ocean shore welcomed wealthy tourists flying in for a weekend getaway from Los Angeles. Yosemite National Park, 1903. In the absence of ski resorts and lifts, tourists entertained themselves by simply sliding down snowy slopes on whatever they could find, proving that you don't always need expensive technology to have fun. Private Elvis Presley during his U.S. Army service in Germany, 1959. Even at the peak of his fame, the king of rock and roll didn't dodge the draft, earning him great respect from the older generation of Americans. A construction worker at the top of the World Trade Center's antenna in New York, at a height of over 500 meters. This picture, taken without any safety harness, is a monument to the courage and professionalism of the ordinary workers who built one of the most ambitious skyscrapers in history. Pamela Hensley as Princess Ardala in the science fiction series Buck Rogers in the 25th Century, 1979. Her exotic and revealing outfits became one of the main symbols of the disco era on television and remain forever in the memory of the male audience. First automatic car wash in New York, 1941. For drivers accustomed to washing their cars by hand, this conveyor belt with dozens of sprays and brushes seemed like a true marvel of technology, promising a brilliant result in just a few minutes. May 5, 1963, Austrian Heinz Meixner makes a daring escape from East Berlin. To slip under the barrier at Checkpoint Charlie, he removed the windshield from his sports car and let the air out of the tires, literally crawling to freedom. Arnold Schwarzenegger at a ballet lesson in 1976. To improve his posing skills and add more grace to his movements, the Austrian oak took lessons from a professional ballerina, proving that even a mountain of muscle requires plasticity. Brigitte Bardot and her second husband, actor Jacques Charrier, during their turbulent romance in the late 50s. Their relationship was a constant subject of paparazzi attention, and Brigitte herself, walking barefoot in the street, became a symbol of a new, free femininity. The king of pop. Michael Jackson and Hollywood legend Fred Astaire, late 70s. For Michael, who idolized Astaire and watched his films hundreds of times, this meeting was a dream come true, and for Astaire himself, an introduction to the future #1 dancer in the world. 6-year-old Carrie Fisher watches her mother, Hollywood star Debbie Reynolds, perform from backstage in Las Vegas, 1963. 14 years later, this girl would become an icon herself, but in a galaxy far, far away. Salvador Dali works on his painting The Face of War in 1941 while in the United States. This canvas, painted under the impression of the Spanish Civil War and the beginning of World War II, became one of the most powerful anti-war statements in the history of painting. 16-year-old Arnold Schwarzenegger at his first bodybuilding competition in Austria, 1963. Against the backdrop of an accordionist and a guitarist in a formal suit, young Arnie looks like a guest from the future who is yet to conquer the world. Actress Sybil Shepherd in 1976. The same year Martin Scorsese's Taxi Driver was released. While audiences watched the brutality of New York streets in the cinema, she remained an icon of 70s style, full of calm and elegance. Anti-airship barrages over London during the First World War. These barrage balloons, with steel cables stretched between them, were intended to prevent German Zeppelins and airplanes from flying at low altitudes, forcing them to climb higher and reducing the accuracy of their bombing. The Reichstag building in Berlin in 1940 and in 2012. These two images are tangible proof that even the most terrible wounds inflicted by war can be healed, and symbols of destruction can be turned into symbols of peace and unity. Sydney in 1932 and in the present day. Over the past decades, the city has grown beyond recognition, becoming a huge metropolis, but the Harbor Bridge, as before, remains its main symbol and heart. A soldier in the trenches of the Battle of the Somme in 1916, in the hell of the bloodiest battle of the First World War, where every day could be the last, faith remained the only support for many. A shot from the filming of Lawrence of Arabia in 1962. Actor Alec Guinness, already a world star, agreed to the role of an Arab prince, while the yet unknown Omar Sharif got his role after 20 other actors who did not believe in the success of a film about the desert turned it down. A group of Italian models rest on the steps in Florence in 1950. This photograph, full of post-war optimism and casual elegance, became one of the symbols of the birth of Italian fashion, which would soon conquer the world. A 20-year-old Jamie Lee Curtis in 1978, the same year Halloween was released, making her the Scream Queen. This natural-looking photograph was taken before Hollywood imposed the image of a horror icon on her for a whole decade. An airplane cabin in the mid-20th century when air travel was a luxury. A stewardess in an elegant uniform serves passengers sitting in spacious seats, proving that the golden age of aviation was an era of comfort and impeccable service. President Franklin Roosevelt and the First Lady of China, Madame Chiang Kai-shek, in 1943. This visit was part of a major political game where Roosevelt sought to strengthen China's position as an important ally in the war against Japan. This is Hollywood actor Burt Lancaster, known for his athletic physique and roles as tough guys. Before getting into movies, he worked as a circus acrobat, and this training allowed him to perform most of the dangerous stunts on set himself. The British battleship HMS Vanguard, the last and largest battleship built for the Royal Navy, in 1946. It entered service too late to participate in World War II and became a luxurious royal yacht, symbolizing the twilight of the era of giant artillery ships. A futuristic gas station in Kiev, 1979. This project, shaped like flying saucers, was part of a Soviet architectural utopia meant to show the world the technological superiority of socialism, but it remained a one-off experiment. A supermarket parking lot in California, 1959. These giant Chevrolets and Cadillacs with their chrome details and sweeping lines are the quintessence of the American dream, when gasoline was cheaper than water and the car was the ultimate symbol of freedom. Actress Ava Gardner on a film set in Pakistan, 1955. Even in a military uniform, one of Hollywood's most beautiful women did not lose her charm, proving that true beauty doesn't need evening gowns. A Farewell at a Train Station, 1922. This photograph, full of tenderness and sadness, was taken between the two world wars and became a symbol of all goodbyes when no one knew if they would see each other again. Beach holidays in the 40s, when the main entertainment wasn't smartphones, but a deck of cards and a portable radio. These girls in one-piece swimsuits are a symbol of a carefree era before mass tourism, when a day at the beach was a real event. President Eisenhower's inaugural parade in 1953. Cowboy Monty Montana, having received permission, throws a lasso over the head of state's shoulders, turning the official ceremony into a real Wild West show.